So welcome everyone. My name is Ariel Margolis. I'm a contract trainer with Schoology. I'll do a little more detail on who I am in a moment. But this session is actually not about building testing quizzes, but it should be about incorporating synchronous communication with Big Blue Button. So apologize for that. I will change that in the first slide. Before we go into more detailed introductions, I just wanted to make sure and go over the agenda with you all, make sure that we're covering everything that we said we wanted to cover. I know that Carrie Richards at Schoology sent this to me. So it's over 2 pages, just so that you can see it. I just wanted to make sure that this is what we're going to cover in terms of the ins and outs of Big Blue Button, what you can do with it, how to use it, and the possibilities of different levels of service that you can get within Big Blue Button. Is there anything in particular that you want me to focus on more or less with regard to the agenda?
I think we'll be able to answer that better as we go.
Okay, that's fine. And this is just the second half in terms of how to log out of the session. But why don't we get started? So as I said, my name is Ariel Margolis. Yes, my parents gave me a girl's name, but it's actually an Israeli name, which is technically for a guy. But you can see my family here. We live in the lovely town of Sharon, Massachusetts, which is about 20 minutes south of Boston. You may in the background hear 2 or 3 of my dogs, which you see on this picture, so I do apologize in advance. I'm hoping the weather outside will be nice. It's actually literally the first day I've been able to work outside, and it's the end of May. And in addition, my 2 kids and I and my wife, we all box. I go 5:30 in the mornings. I love to ski and garden. And for work, I work at Hebrew College, which is a small professional school about 5 minutes outside of Boston. We focus on training professionals to become teachers, special ed teachers, rabbis, and cantors to work in the Jewish community globally. We serve students on 5 continents. We have over 1,500 students that attend our classes either live, in person, or asynchronously. My other hat, my official title is Director of Online Services and Student Support. So I work with the faculty on instructional design of their classes, and I also work with the students that need academic support in the college, both in person as well as virtual. And I also am a ed tech consultant. Those are the 3 companies that I have consulted with or continue to consult with. So it's a nice perk to be able to work with some of the technology that you can incorporate in Schoology. What I'd like to do is to give you access to the course. Again, it's not called Building Testing Quizzes. I do apologize for that. But here's the access code. Does anybody need me to walk you through how to get access to the course?
I don't think so.
Okay. What you should see is what's on my screen once you're in it. You can just let me know when everyone's in.
Okay.
I need the code again.
Yeah, can you leave the code out for just...
Absolutely. Sorry.
I'm good.
Lynn.
Everybody's in? All right.
Honor.
Working on it.
Hang on. I'm going to write that down.
I'm trying to go with the big blue button.
Course. Just do you have the code?
Okay. Hey, I'm in.
We're good to go.
Awesome. So this is your course that I created for you. Have you had Schoology trainings before?
Yes.
You have. Okay. So this is your course. It will be live for a couple of months, and then it will be archived, but you have access to everything that's in it. I like to call it a playground. It's really your opportunity to see what Schoology is capable of doing. As you see, I'm also an instructional designer, so you may see some items that look a little more advanced than what you're currently used to. That's just to show you what it's capable of doing. I'm always happy to show people how to do it um, and how to make Schoology better for your students in order to learn. That's really the whole purpose of it. We're going to jump down to the blue folder all the way at the bottom, and that's where we're going to stay today during this session. So what I've done for you is created this little set of resources. The first is a discussion board. This is where you can put your questions either during the presentation, if you have a burning question but you want to not ask it directly, or after the session. I will get notifications that you have sent or added a question to the discussion, and then I'll be able to answer it after our session is over. In addition, we also have the PowerPoint slides that you will have access to, and links to different parts of Big Blue Button, Schoology support page, video tutorials, and the premium licensing, which I'll talk to toward the end. Any questions on how to access the folder? Are we good to go?
I think so. Good to go.
All right. So I would love to know how your institution plans to use Big Blue Button. That will help me sort of guide the agenda a little bit more in understanding what your needs and desires are.
Well, I think today's session is kind of an awareness session to what the Big Blue Button does, so that we can organizationally talk about how we could leverage it.
Okay.
But we see opportunities to do web conferencing with parents, with each other potentially, maybe other of our home schools. We're a career center that 7 home schools feed into us. So we're really kind of looking to see what does it do for us to kind of determine how we might be able to utilize it.
Sure. Sounds great. It will be able to help you meet those goals, and I'll walk you through the ins and outs. In order to get the Big Blue Button icon as an app that's listed on the side of the menu, what you would first need to do is go to your app store. Are you familiar with adding an app? I'm happy to walk you through it if you're not.
Yeah, I added this globally when we started using Schoology at the beginning of the school year.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I added this globally when we first started using Schoology, so everybody should have access to it.
Beautiful. Okay, so I am not going to walk you through it. Again, if you want to add it, you can look at the Schoology support, and it will show you the steps on how to add it globally if you wish, for those that are interested. What you're going to do either in a course or in a group, and again, I apologize for asking these questions. I just want to make sure in terms of understanding your level of knowledge and comfort. Have we gone over the difference between courses and groups? We know the functionality of both?
Yes.
Okay. So the beauty of Big Blue Button is that it can be used in a course for more academic purposes, and groups for more also for academic, but as well as informal sessions. So you mentioned in terms of talking with parents. So forming a parent group might be the way to go in terms of creating the full course. What will happen is you will click on Big Blue Button Conference, and it will open up a new page. For the instructors, again, depending on your settings, usually if it is global, then your instructors should have privileges to create a conference. This is what they will see. So it'll be a new tab. It'll show the active conferences, and it would also show the completed conferences. To create a new conference, simply click the button. You can title it. You don't necessarily have to set a start time, but it's helpful in terms of scheduling purposes. What's nice is that both the courses and groups, because they have a calendar function, it will automatically be added to the calendar for the students as well as the faculty or parents. So that's what's the nice feature in terms of having a start time. You'll notice that adding an end time is optional. That's really more for scheduling purposes. You don't necessarily have to do an end time, but if you wish, you can. What's also nice is that your system is set for your specific time zone. So when I type in 3 p.m., that's for Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Because one of the courses I teach is for students over in Israel, they're 7 hours ahead. So it'll automatically adjust to be 7 hours ahead for them. So that would be 10 o'clock my time. Sorry, 10 o'clock their time in the evening for them. So it automatically adjusts, and that's a nice feature about Big Blue Button as well as Schoology. You then click Create, and you have your conference. For faculty as well as groups, so for example, if you have sports teams, if you have clubs or student government, I know that you're in Massachusetts, you're equivalently called like a voc tech school, a vocational technical school for high school, though we would love to have it for adults as well. Our government is, our state government's working on that. So you guys are ahead of the game. What's nice is that you can set all your conferences ahead of time so they are part of the assignments and activities for that particular course or group. And you can also schedule overlapping conferences. So if I'm teaching and I want to run a group at 9 a.m. and a colleague of mine also wants to run a Big Blue Button at 9 a.m., they can do it. There's no limit on the number of conferences that can be held. Any questions up until this point?
No, not at this time.
Okay. In order to start a conference, my suggestion is always for the faculty member or the person who's running the conference to start 15 minutes before the start time. The benefit of that is, as you will see when I click the start time, there are a number of steps that have to be loaded and activated onto your computer. So as you can see, you may be asked permission to run certain programs. So it's always good to have 15 minutes minimum of lead time when you're going to run a Big Blue Button, especially if you're doing it for the first time. The downside of that is that technically students can log on early. You can say it's going to be 2:30, but you might have an eager beaver that wants to get started. So they just may see you start to set up, and that's okay. That's just again part of the culture. You're going to be asked, do you want to have a listen only or a microphone? So for example, if it's a webinar or a training, many people or participants will select the listen only. That's also good from a marketing perspective. I know we have a PR person in the room. It's good for a marketing perspective if you have a prospective student or parent that wants to see what a Big Blue Button is like. You can tell them to do a listen only, so that way they're a quote unquote, the word we use is lurker, but that's got negative connotations. I wouldn't use that with your perspectives, but it's basically being able to observe without having an active role. If you click microphone, it's again going to walk you through the steps. My recommendation, and this is also in the PowerPoint, is to use Chrome or Mozilla or Firefox. Internet Explorer is not great for using Big Blue Button. So what systems do you currently use?
We have Chrome on every machine and a lot of them have Firefox.
Okay. And do your students primarily use Mac or PCs, or is it a BYOD system?
Primarily PCs.
Primarily PCs, okay. So once you've gone through the steps, it will ask you for an audio test. You click yes or no. Obviously, you can hear the feedback. And now we've created a Big Blue Button session. Before I go through different aspects of the Big Blue Button, are there any questions on how I was able to start a Big Blue Button conference?
No.
Okay. One piece before I go into it, the image that you see in front of you where you can create a new conference, that's only for the people that you allow to create conferences. So that would most likely be faculty, advisors. If you have student government, depending on the culture and regulations of the school, if you want the student body president to have Big Blue Button capabilities, or if you want students to create their own study groups, there is a way that you can create a student profile that has Big Blue Button access for those specific students, and they can create a conference. Otherwise, all that a student or a parent is going to see are the actual conference times, and they would say enter conference instead of start conference or end conference. That's all that they would see. Oh, good. I got Mike here. Excellent. So here is, by the way, you can have, technically what Big Blue Button says is that you can have up to 100 participants. The benefit is that technically you can, but it's dependent on the host's bandwidth. So the more bandwidth that is required, so for example, if everybody turned on their video capturing systems, their cameras, that would suck up the bandwidth, and you would run into glitches. Likewise, if your Wi-Fi isn't as strong, or if your building is not Wi-Fi savvy, meaning that it's made out of stone and you've got hard corners and mazes, as in some old buildings, you may need to upgrade your Wi-Fi. Or the beauty of this is you can go to a local Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts and be able to access, and start a presentation anywhere, as long as you have internet capability. What you'll see here on the left-hand side is the users. You'll see this little presenter icon. This allows me, this basically states that I am the presenter. I can transfer the presenter if I wanted to transfer it to Mike. I would just click the icon, and then Mike is the presenter. That's helpful if you have student presentations, or if you have a parent that wants to present something to the group, or a student that wants to present something to the group. These icons here, you can update your status icon. You're already starting to play with them. I'm glad you're doing that. Feel free to explore. That's totally fine. The settings here, it allows me to clear all the status icons. So if I wanted to play King, I could clear Mike's hand clapping. I can also mute all the users in the beginning. So if everyone is talking, what can happen is you can mute everybody, and then nobody will hear anything except you as the presenter. And that's where this icon comes into play, accept the presenter. We'll get to breakout rooms in a second, but this is basically your functionality area. Here is your microphone icon. Up here is your webcam. I will share it. Again, part of the system is you're going to want to allow extra time to go through all of the hurdles that your internet browser may allow and your security system may allow. What will happen is you'll start to see a webcam, and here's where you see me. If I don't know if any of you have webcam capabilities, but you're more than welcome to join in. What's also nice is that I can mute a student or I can mute myself if I wanted to, just by clicking on that little icon. Here is your main screen, and this is where you would see, again, an instructional video. So if you wanted your faculty to see the instructions from Big Blue Button directly, they can click here. To get to a white page and to be able to draw on it, you would just click one of these little icons and you can start to draw on it. It's very much like an Etch-a-Sketch for those of you that are familiar with an Etch-a-Sketch. I know that probably dates me, but that's what it reminds me of.
You have a smiling in the room. Now you're trying to get ahead of us, not show your age, right?
You can also do type of text. So if you wanted to do an agenda for today's meeting, and if you wanted to clear all the annotations, you can. If you wanted to undo it, change your color, and also the thickness of your drawing. In addition, below here, you are able to upload presentations. Note that it does say that it would prefer PDF files. I will show you what a PowerPoint versus a PDF file does. PDF files work best. However, you can also put up pictures, provided that they have a large enough, a high enough pixelation count to it. The way you would do it is select a file. So, oh good, you get to see my son's bullseye from Lyme disease. That's excellent. Sorry about that. So if you wanted to go to, get a particular file, let's see here. So I will pick this. You would then click upload. And here is your document. What's nice is very much like a smartboard. You can write on it. You can also add text to it, or a square if you wanted to highlight it. The beauty of it is that if students have this document in front of them on a separate screen, they can also see this. So in a live session, you'd be able to record it and manipulate it. And the beauty is that you can keep the recording, post the recording, or have access. The students can have access to the recording. So if they are sick or not able to attend, they can watch the video at a later time. I'll go into a little bit more detail about the length, how long the recording lasts, and the different levels in terms of if you wanted to keep the recordings forever, what that would look like. I'm going to stop here and answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Everybody's shaking their head no.
All right. Awesome. For bandwidth's sake, I'm just going to turn off my mic. Sorry, my webcam. The other option that you have is you can also start a poll within the class. This is a fairly new feature. What you can do is type in a question. Let's actually get it going. There we go. So you can have different types of polls. It's similar to the quiz function, the quiz or test function that you have in the course development. But here, if you wanted to poll the audience quickly, if you wanted 2 options, 3 options, 4 options, or if you wanted to customize your poll. So, for example, you could ask people, you know, is it sunny today or is today Wednesday? And then you could wait for a response. People can then add it. And then the poll is then published right on the screen. So it's a way to, you can use it. I hate using the word engagement because that's really not the purpose of the technology. Yes, it is a way to gain a student's attention, but the real goal is how to, you know, what can you use it for learning? So you could use it as a check-in at the beginning or like a do now. You could do it as an exit ticket. You could do it as part of a check-in if you're doing an online class. You know, does everybody understanding? Do they feel confident? Again, it's similar to the status here. You could also ask people in the status bar, could you say, you know, how confident are you with the material we just went over? This is just another way to access information about your students, especially if you're teaching distance. Often, I'm teaching asynchronously to the graduate students, and if there's radio silence, if I don't get any feedback from them, I often envision that they are picketing outside their house with a big picture of me and a red line through it because they don't want to take the course, when in fact they have, you know, they just might not have something to say, and it's also the first time that they're doing an asynchronous style learning. So it's a way to sort of check in with them to see how people are doing, to see how your students are doing. So let me show you in terms of what the difference between a PDF and a PowerPoint would look like. So let me just see if I can access it. Do your faculty primarily use PowerPoint or Google Slides?
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint? Okay. So here's a PowerPoint. I'm going to upload it. You can only upload one file at a time. Again, as you see, sometimes it takes longer than others. So again, I know I've said this repeatedly, but you want to make sure you have enough time to do what you need to do. You know, it's very similar to being prepared for your class. So the more time you have available, the better. It will also tell you, as you see on the screen, whether or not a document is supported. Most Microsoft Office documents are supported. I would say that the Google Docs, not as much because they're cloud-based. If you download them and convert them, you can. I apologize for the length. There we go.
Somebody at the door?
I'm sorry?
Somebody at the door?
Oh, yes. I'm sure. Or it's a friend walking by. They are very friendly, even though one's a Labradesian, so he's 130 pounds, and I have a Rottweiler Beagle who's 100 pounds.
Wow.
And a 14-pound Dachshund who runs the household. So, so this is what the PowerPoint looks like. You can see that there is some formatting that is lost, which is why when you convert it to a PDF, that does not take place. This text box would be in line with the picture, and you would be able to read it. But it's not terrible. But this is what a PowerPoint would look like. So if you're planning to use a PowerPoint to teach, you can use it with this system in terms of uploading it. You will also notice that you can only show one at a time. To select a different item, you would just click show, and that would show the other item. You can also delete it once you are done with it. Note that once you close out your Big Blue Button session, the items are not saved within, Big Blue Button doesn't take it per se. That being said, given that nothing is ever erased from the internet, if you don't want it saved, if it's got confidential information, so if you're doing a board meeting or you're showing individual students private information, I would recommend deleting it before closing out. Finally, there's a chat. This is great for a backroom channel. So if you are presenting a movie or if you're showing a webinar, this is a great way for students to put questions which you can then field, or other students can field while they're participating. It's also a way to do a parking lot system where you can, if you have a question, let's say during this session you had a question about quizzes, you can add it to this, and then I would be able to come to it later. You can also select a person to chat with privately. That is true for everyone. So I don't necessarily think you're going to have that issue with high schoolers or adults. I could be wrong. But in terms of being able to chat with one another, they do have that capability. So whatever your netiquette protocol is, you may want to include this with your Big Blue Button in terms of when students are allowed to chat with one another and when they really shouldn't be. As an administrator, I cannot see if Mike decides to chat privately with somebody else. At the same time, the benefit is that if Brian needs to get in touch with me as the presenter and say, I need to leave, there's an emergency, I would get that information, and then Brian would leave and it wouldn't be an issue. So again, there are benefits and consequences to both. Any questions so far?
No.
All right. This button here allows me to record my Big Blue Button. Once I click record, are you sure you want to start recording the session? The answer obviously is yes. From a legal perspective, you are supposed to get everyone's permission first before you record by law, because this technically would be considered submissible in court. for whatever reason. If somebody refuses, then you have to ask them to leave, or you decide not to record. But just make sure that you ask that. It's also good practice for your teachers as well. And it's also helpful for students to realize that this session is being recorded. So if they do write something inappropriate, it's going to be on there. So that's helpful for everyone, for all the stakeholders to know. So right now this session's being recorded. If I wanted to stop the recording, I would click stop. It doesn't end my session. All it does is it allows it to be recorded for that particular time. So if you want only part of your session recorded, you can click on and off. I can also resume the recording if I want. This icon here allows me to share my screen. See if it'll. What's nice is that Big Blue Button realized that Chrome was being finicky with it and not allowing us to share a screen. Now it will. It walks you through the steps. You have to download a Java app. So I don't know what type of restrictions faculty have or students have with regard to downloading onto the computers, but that's just something to be aware of. It'll walk you through the steps. Click start. It'll download. This type of file can harm your computer. I downloaded it. My computer is still fine. I'm growing a third arm out of my head, but my computer's fine. So the program will work. Click it to open.
We've run a couple of these Big Blue Button conferences early in the year using Firefox, and they work just fine.
Excellent. That's great.
Firefox.
Terrific. What you will see, it's very similar to having a, if it was, I saw that my Wi-Fi was starting to sputter. So do I want to run this application? Click run. It'll run through this whole system. A blue light will signal that your screen is about to be shared. And there you can see the presenter's preview, and your students would then see the full screen. So when I was playing with this a couple days ago, it was kind of it reminded me of Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass, that you're looking at an image of an image of an image. Again, the beauty of it is if you're recording it, they will see whatever it is that you want to show them. So if you want to leave the Big Blue Button area, if you wanted to go to another site, you can. You can also pause it to allow you to get to a different site. Or if you needed to enter in a username and password that you didn't want the students to see, you can pause the screen sharing. And then when you're done, you can click stop. The other two buttons on the bottom here, there are different languages. I don't know if that is something that has come up in terms of accessibility, or if you're doing foreign languages, this may be helpful. This is also what's called the default layout in Big Blue Button. You can change it. So if I just wanted to do a video chat, I would click it, and then obviously because our camera's not on, it's blank, but you would then just see the people. This little button right here would allow me to force everyone else's screen to be in the same layout. So if I wanted to make sure that people were focusing on one another, if there was a discussion going on and I didn't want the students to be typing, I could force everyone to just be seeing a screen. Or from a positive perspective, if you just wanted to have a webinar or a web conference, you can do it just by doing a video chat or webcam meeting, and then being able to click apply to everybody except the moderators. Any questions so far?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Once my session is done, the way to log out for both students and teachers is to click the log out, which I'm going to do. Oh, I didn't go over breakout rooms. Is that something that you would be interested in just seeing? It's fairly new.
Yes, please.
Sure. So the breakout rooms is very similar to having virtual groups that are live. So I'm thinking of a live classroom where students are working on different projects. Here you can actually have them do it virtually, which is a fantastic component, both in terms of coursework as well as study groups. If there was some type of session that you wanted, if you were doing some type of icebreaker with prospective parents or prospective students, you could pose a question, divide everybody up into the number of rooms that you would like. You can move people around if you wish. So now Pam is by herself. Everyone that's not assigned would then be assigned. 2 rooms, and then you would click start. And then only the people in room 1 would be able to see what room 1 is doing. They would not be able to see what room 2 is doing, and vice versa. The instructor, however, would. So the instructor is a moderator. It's helpful in terms of keeping students on task, as well as you can also guide the students or the groups in a particular way if you wish. You can set the time limit, so it could be as little as 3 minutes. It could be as long as the entire class. Once you're done, you can click close. So that's a new feature that was added about 4 months ago.
Have you utilized that feature in anything that you've been doing?
I didn't use it in my spring class because I only had 4 students. So they were one group unto themselves. This fall, I will be using it with a larger group in terms of having students work together. It's also a great opportunity to incorporate groups, the group feature, because you can create quote-unquote study groups that will have that virtual component in it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So once you're done, I'm just going to record a little bit longer just to make sure. I'm also mindful of the time that we've got about 8 minutes left. I can go a little bit further if need be, but I want to be mindful of your time as well.
I think we have a little time for you if there's something that you feel is necessary to show us.
Okay. Very good. So hopefully that should do it. So when you're done with your session, just click log out. You sure you want to log out? Yes. And it will bring you back to your course. In order to, again, access, as the instructor, you're going to want to end your conference. And then once I ended it, I'll go to the completed section. This one says that there are no recordings found for this conference. That's because Big Blue Button is processing it. It does take a little bit of time. If you're recording a whole hour, I would say give them anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on the time of day. If the system's being used heavily, not just by you, but by anyone else who is using Big Blue Button, sometimes their servers can get backed up. But eventually it will be accessible. This is also where students would access the video. Right now you have the enterprise version, and do you have the premium hosting or just the regular hosting for Big Blue Button?
I'm not sure.
Okay, most likely you've got the freebie.
Yeah, it's the free.
So once the recording is here, you or other students can access it who are in the course. Same thing goes with groups. for up to 7 days. After 7 days, it goes away. If you want to keep it or be able to upload it to YouTube or to Vimeo, or to be able to download it onto your servers and be able to add it, you need to pay for the premium hosting for Big Blue Button. In the PowerPoint, toward the bottom, you can get a quote for premium hosting from Tara McDonald. Her email and telephone number are there. I met her last year at the Schoology Next conference. She's very down to earth. She will work with you to make something work for your institution. But obviously there's an additional cost to it. Here are the items from the premium hosting. This, however, is wrong. It says breakout rooms added in 2016. I believe you can do that from the freebie version. I will double check, but I believe that's also available in the free version, so you have access to that. So that's something for your team to decide whether or not it would be valuable for people to access it. We've had it for 3 years at Hebrew College. We have not found a need to keep the videos for more than 7 days. If there is as of yet, that doesn't mean we will one day. But what it has done is it's basically forced the students to make sure that they watch the video within the 7-day period. So that way it's actually a benefit to help them keep them on top of the schoolwork and on top of what's being taught. Any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. That's really all that I had. That's really all that I had for you in terms of showing you the ins and outs of Big Blue Button. I can tell you that if you look at a group as well, it will have the Big Blue Button conference provided that it was established by your institution. So if I just switch to my schools for a moment. So here's my Big Blue conference, and this is what students or parents or prospective parents or alumni or donors can access. So that's a great function of groups. You can have all these subgroups within your institution. And there's a Big Blue Button conferencing opportunity capability as well. And that's part of the enterprise package. That's not extra. So if you already have access to with your courses, you can do it through all of your groups as well.
Cool.
All right. Any other questions?
How are others using that basically I see that you're using it in a course. Is there some out-of-the-box thinking that we might want to consider that you're aware of?
Given a little bit of what I read about your school on your website and also what I've learned from what you've shared with me during this session, if you know that you have a number of different sites, so it's a way to do professional development. You can have teachers who are teaching the same subject areas or subject matter experts. It's a way to bring in professional development for your teachers if you wanted to create, use the resource functionality of Schoology and create resources for your teachers or for your students. Another way to use it is to bring in guest speakers. So I know that you have a law enforcement track. So if there were different members of law enforcement in terms of FBI, CIA, local, federal, state, that's a way to bring in guest speakers. Another functionality of it is it can be a way for teachers to make recordings for for test preparations, for studying preparations, for study guides that people can then access. So a teacher doesn't have to do it each time. You know, in some ways it doesn't allow you to edit as a video capturing system would, like Camtasia or Screencast-O-Matic. But in terms of recording, so that way you don't have to repeat. Another tool that could be used is in terms of teacher coaching. I don't know if you have that in your school system, where teachers have coaches to work on their own professional goals. So one option could be is that they record their session and their coach watches it and their teacher watches it together for feedback on how they are teaching. It's a great way to catch a teacher who may not necessarily be using best practices or using the practices of the college that you or the program that you want. It's also a very easy way to see how many times a teacher says if it's an issue. So there are other ways, many different ways you can use it. The biggest piece is that you want to make sure that you have permission to record, because you don't want to run into the issue of recording without the person's consent.
Thank you for that insight. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I think you have managed to answer all of our questions and demonstrate effectively the blue button, and also provide us some ideas on how we might be able to utilize the blue button.
Terrific. I'm glad I could do that. I just had one request and then one question for you, Pam. At the bottom of the Google slide, there is a link to a Google form that Schoology would like you to fill out on how I did. It's helpful for me in terms of